Chapter 31, My Biggest Mistake. I knew I was in trouble from the moment I set foot in the building Monday morning. It was the way the other kids stared at me, then turned to their friends to whisper. The way everybody moved out of my way like I was Hagrid parting crowds in Diagon Alley. The way my sneakers squeaked loud enough for me to hear them in the quiet hall. A chill ran down my spine and I got goosebumps. And not the R.L. Stein kind. My footsteps slowed and my heart pounded in my chest. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. And then I turned the corner and saw Principal Bananazeski standing next to my locker. Mr. Crutchfield, the Shelbourne Elementary custodian, stood next to her with the long-handled metal cutters he used to cut off locks when kids forgot their combinations. No, I thought. No. Miss Olinger, Principal Bananazeski said, I need you to open your locker, please. I started crying. I couldn't help it. Even with everybody watching, tears just streamed down my face and I sobbed once. This couldn't be happening. Miss Bananazeski wasn't really standing in front of my locker telling me to open it. I was still asleep. I was still dreaming. I had to be. This was a nightmare, because if Principal Banana was there telling me to open my locker, that meant it was all over. Miss Olinger, if you won't open the lock, I'll have to ask Mr. Crutchfield to cut it off. I wanted to say something. I wanted to do something. But all I did was stand there and cry. I was barely even aware of the other kids who gathered around to gawk at me. All right, Mr. Crutchfield, Principal Bananazeski said. Through watery eyes, I watched him slip the cutters around my lock and squeeze. The lock popped, and Miss Bananazeski removed it. The hallway was completely silent as Principal Bananazeski opened my locker. The clink-clink of the handle on my locker echoed in the quiet hallway. It sounded like handcuffs going on my wrists. I wanted to fall to my knees. Where was all my quicksand now? I wanted it. I wanted to be swallowed up by the ground and disappear forever, but there I stood, watching through my tears as Principal Banana pulled books out of my locker library. The covers didn't fool her for a second. She already knew. She opened one, then another, until she was satisfied they were all illegal books. They all were. My locker was stacked full of them, from top to bottom. I let the backpack filled with my school books slide to the ground. Mr. Crutchfield, if you'll collect all the books in this locker and bring them to my office, Principal Bananazeski said. Miss Olinger, you'll come to the office with me and we'll call your parents. I followed along, numb. I saw Rebecca, her hand to her mouth, and tears running down her face. I saw Danny, whose pained eyes stared out from under his perfect hair. I saw Javi and Jana and Parker and Sophia and Felicia and TJ, a bunch of other people who'd borrowed books from the BBLO. They watched me get taken away like a criminal. And there, at the end of the hall, was Trey. His mother stood behind him, her hands on his shoulders, looking at me like I just slapped her in the face. Loaning that book to Trey had been the biggest mistake of my life.